massive cyber attack of 2026 didn't kick down the front door, it was invited right into the house. It started with a single line of code, an instruction so perfectly disguised that it slipped past seasoned security teams at some of the biggest names in software. To a developer, it looked like just another routine package update for NPM, the digital warehouse that powers the modern web. But it carried a payload, and with one command, npm install, developers across the world welcomed the monster into their machines. In our previous videos, we already have dealt with npm install, how was it weaponized. But this is the story of TeamPCP, a cybercriminal group that spent 9 months turning the open source ecosystem's greatest strength, the trust developers place in each other's code, into its most catastrophic vulnerability. By the time the full scale of their campaign became clear, they had torn through SAP, TanStack, Mistral AI, Bitwarden, Red Hat, Microsoft, and finally GitHub itself. Their weapon was a self-replicating worm they named after the sandworms of Frank Herbert's Dune. They called it Shai-Hulud, and the creature it was named after. Once it burrowed in, it consumed everything from the inside out. To understand how this was possible, you need to understand what NPM is and why developers trust it the way they do. And if you are Node.js developer, you are familiar already. So you can skip to the next section. NPM, the Node Package Manager, is the world's largest software registry, hosting over 2 million packages of free open source code. When a developer builds a web application, they don't write everything from scratch. They pull in packages from NPM to handle specific tasks. One package for making HTTP requests, another for formatting dates, another for building UI components. A single modern application might depend on hundreds of these packages, and each of those packages might depend on dozens more. This web of dependencies runs so deep that a single widely used package installed as part of something else entirely can quietly reach into millions of projects without anyone explicitly choosing it. Every time a developer types npm install, their machine fetches these packages and runs any installation scripts the package author has included. These scripts are designed for legitimate purposes: compiling code, setting up configuration files, checking system requirements. But they execute with the same privileges as the developer running them, on the developer's machine, before anyone has had a chance to inspect what they actually do. For years, the community understood this was a risk. The attack surface was visible. Researchers had written about it, and for years, the trust held. Not because the system was technically secure, but because the community assumed that bad actors wouldn't bother with something so audacious. TeamPCP decided to bother. TeamPCP's campaign did not begin with a dramatic strike. It began with a reconnaissance. In March 2026, the group compromised 2 security tools that developers used to scan their own code for vulnerabilities: Aqua Security's Trivy Scanner and Checkmark's KICS. The irony of using security tools as the entry point for a supply chain attack was not lost on researchers who later documented it. By compromising the tools that developers trust to protect them, TeamPCP gained early access to CI/CD credentials, the cryptographic keys that automated build pipelines used to publish software, without triggering the alerts that would have followed a more obvious intrusion. On April 22, 2026, they hit Bitwarden's official CLI package on NPM. Bitwarden is a widely used password manager, and its CLI is a tool that developers integrate into their own workflows. Anyone who installed the compromised version and had NPM or GitHub publishing tokens on their machine became a potential carrier. A week later, on April 29, 2026, they compromised 4 official SAP NPM packages, the cloud application programming model libraries used by enterprise developers building on SAP's platform, through an NPM token that had leaked via a malicious Circle CI pull request build. The payload embedded in these packages tagged itself with a hard-coded description string. A mini Shai-Hulud has appeared, which began showing up in public GitHub search results in real time as compromised developer machines automatically created dead drop repositories on their own accounts, each one a breadcrumb left behind by a machine the worm had already consumed. The SAP compromise alone netted TeamPCP a set of CI/CD credentials from enterprise development pipelines, which are credentials with publishing rights to packages used by thousands of organizations globally. They had proven the self-propagation mechanism worked. They had a stockpile of stolen tokens. The next phase was scale. What made Shai-Hulud different from ordinary malicious packages was the propagation engine built into it. The initial payload, the credential stealer, worked through NPM's pre-install and post-install lifecycle hooks. These are scripts that run automatically the moment a developer executes npm install, before any application code runs and before any human reviews what's happening. The payload activated silently, scanned the developer's environment, and harvested everything it could find: AWS keys, Google Cloud credentials, Azure tokens, Kubernetes secrets, HashiCorp vault tokens, SSH private keys, and most critically, NPM publishing tokens and GitHub personal access tokens. Stealing those tokens is what transformed this from a data breach into a worm. Once Shai-Hulud had an NPM token, it used it. Fully automated, it logged into NPM as the compromised developer, identified every package that account had publishing rights to, injected a free copy of the miasma payload into each one, and republished them to the registry under a new version number. The victim became the vector. Their packages that other developers trusted specifically because of that developer's reputation, now carried the infection. Each new victim opened up their own set of packages. The propagation was exponential by design. The worm also went after CI/CD pipelines directly. In environments where it could reach GitHub Actions secrets or OIDC tokens, the machine-readable credentials that automated workflows used to publish code, it used those to publish malicious packages directly from within the legitimate build infrastructure. This created a problem that the security community had not previously faced at scale. Packages that appeared to come from the correct, trusted source published through the correct, trusted pipeline, carrying valid cryptographic signatures, and were still malicious. The malicious packages were published with valid SLSA build level 3 provenance attestation, the first documented case in NPM history. Sigstore certifies the process, not the code. Because TeamPCP had hijacked TanStack's pipeline from inside, the certificate was real, and the package was poisoned simultaneously. Researchers at ChainGuard put it plainly. A valid Sigstore signatures tell you that a CI job signed a package. It does not tell you whether that CI job was running legitimate code. We have already made a video regarding TanStack query. If you haven't seen that, please see that to get more background on what TanStack is. The TanStack way: 84 malicious versions across 42 packages in 6 minutes, propagated within hours to Mistral AI, UiPath, OpenSearch, and Guardrails AI, touching over 170 NPM and PyPI packages across 404 malicious versions. The mechanism was the same as always: stolen tokens, automated republishing, exponential speed. Then TeamPCP did something that shifted the thread from a campaign into an era. On May 12, 2026, the day after the TanStack attack, while the incident response was still active, they published the full source code of the mini Shai-Hulud worm to a public GitHub repository. The commit message read, "Shai-Hulud, open sourcing the carnage." The repository included the CI cache poisoning scripts, the OIDC token extractor, the credential stealer, and the propagation logic, a complete deployment-ready toolkit. Simultaneously, TeamPCP posted a competition on breach forums offering a $1,000 prize for the largest supply chain attack carried out using the code. They stopped competing for access themselves. They were now multiplying the number of actors who would threaten the ecosystem. On May 19, 2026, TeamPCP struck again. The NPM maintainer account, a tool, was compromised. That account held publishing rights across 547 packages belonging to the AntV data visualization ecosystem, an Alibaba-originated suite widely used in enterprise dashboards, financial reporting tools, and graph analysis platforms. In a 22-minute automated burst, 637 malicious versions were published across 233 packages. The affected packages included Size Sensor at 4.2 million monthly downloads, eCharts for React at 3.8 billion, AntVScale at 2.2 million, and TimeAgo.js at 1.5 million. A combined blast radius of roughly 16 million weekly downloads across the AntV ecosystem. Any CI/CD environment or developer machine that ran npm install against an infected package during that window, that is between 139 and 218 UTC, had its secrets harvested. Shortly after, Microsoft's own Durable Task package on PyPI was compromised. Durable Task is the official Microsoft Python client for the Durable Task workflow execution framework, with over 417,000 monthly downloads. 3 malicious versions, 1.4.1, 1.4.2, and 1.4.3, were published using credentials stolen from a GitHub account that had itself been compromised in an earlier way. The payload was a dropper that fetched a second stage script from an external server and ran it silently. Microsoft's tooling was now part of the infection chain. Then the source code's open publication started producing results TeamPCP hadn't carried out themselves. On June 1, 2026, 32 official packages under the Red Hat Cloud Services namespace were compromised. Across 96 versions cumulatively downloaded 80,000 times per week. Security researchers at Google own Wiz traced the intrusion to a single Red Hat employee's compromised GitHub account, which was used to push malicious orphan commits directly to two Red Hat Insights repositories, bypassing code review entirely. The payload was a new variant called Miasma. Same architecture, same credential regex patterns, same obfuscation structure as mini Shai-Hulud. TeamPCP did not carry out this attack. Someone else did, using the toolkit TeamPCP had published 11 days earlier with a $1,000 prize attached to it. The final target in TeamPCP's documented campaign was GitHub itself. A GitHub employee installed a malicious VS Code extension from the official Visual Studio Code marketplace. The extension, which was later identified as a Trojanized version of an existing tool called NXDevTool, which had approximately 6,000 installs, executed malware that gave TeamPCP access to the employee's device and from there to GitHub's internal systems. The group exfiltrated approximately 3,800 internal GitHub repositories. They posted the stolen data for sale on breach forums for $50,000, advertising it as GitHub source code and internal orgs, and stating that they were not interested in a ransom, just a single buyer, after which they would destroy their copy. If no buyer was found, they would leak it for free. GitHub confirmed the breach. The company stated that its investigation found no evidence that customer data was compromised, and that the activity appeared limited to internal repositories. But the breach of GitHub, the platform that hosts the source code of most of the world's open source software and the CI/CD infrastructure that deploys it, completed a picture that had been building since March. TeamPCP had moved from security scanners to password managers to enterprise frameworks to routing libraries to API clients to the registry's own maintainer accounts to the company that runs the registry's infrastructure. Each step used the access from the previous step. The worm ate the ecosystem, and then it ate the house the ecosystem was built in. 9 weeks, 0 CVEs for most of the compromised packages because of vulnerabilities being exploited weren't in the packages themselves. They were in the trust model that the entire industry had built and depended on. The green check marks on the cryptographic signatures were real. The security tools scanning for malicious post-install scripts were running. The maintainers were legitimate. The pipelines were sanctioned, and none of it was enough because TeamPCP didn't attack any of those things directly. They attacked the assumption that a trusted source stays trusted after its credentials are stolen. On May 12, 2026, they published a user manual for doing it again and offered a cash prize to anyone who would. The worm is still out there. The source code is still public. The copycat attacks have already begun. And let me know if you have been hit or affected by this kind of attack. Let us know in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, as we'll see you soon in the next one. Till then, peace out.